Alright. Good morning, lads. Good morning. How are we doing? As you can tell, I've not long been awake. But it's all good. We got warrior changes to look at. And there's a lot to look at. Right. So, what I think we will start with, how are we doing? You know what, Joski? I'm very good. Alright. Let's start with... Watch your then go asleep again. That seems fair. Right. What we'll do is we'll start where we should start. Boom. And that's right here. Yeah, we'll take a look at all the notes that they've said first. Also, today you're in for a treat. It's my face. Alright. So we'll start with the notes because starting with the notes is obviously a very good idea. You know, it's a pretty good idea. So we'll have a look at this first. Right, from the top, we'll just jump straight into it. We've made some changes to stances. Each specialization now has one damage-based stance available to them. We might revisit this and their specific functionality later, but for now we want players to have the intended experience when playing in the beta, and that is that Arms uses Battle Stance and Fury uses Berserker Stance, and you can opt into Defensive Stance when you're expecting heavy incoming damage. Now, this is going to get changed. I'm almost convinced. I am almost convinced that this is going to get changed quite quickly. Because the way that they are doubling down on Berserker Stance being auto-attack only is pushing Fury ever closer into an auto-attack base spec, which I don't think Titan's Grip should be at all. I don't think that, you know, single-minded Fury being a auto-attack base spec, I kind of understand. But Titan's Grip forcing it into a similar type of damage profile or playstyle, I don't particularly, not even playstyle, but the fact that they're accentuating auto attack so much, I don't like the idea of. I really don't like the idea of that, but we'll see. We'll see. The buff to Berserker Stance was okay, so there's some under the hood changes related to auto attack tuning that lead to the increases and reductions that you'll see. That's the aura nerfs that both Arms and Fury got. Why Arms got an auto attack aura nerf, I'm not sure, but they did. Alright, so with the class tree, Battle Stance is no longer available to Fury, and Berserker Stance is no longer available to Arms or Prot. Sidearm has been moved to the general tree, which is a weird one, especially its placement. We'll get into the placement of everything in a moment. But this is a weird one, because the placement of it means that now pretty much every spec can and will take it for free in every situation possible. It's not going to be one of those things that you only take for cleave. It's going to be one of those things that you can just take as a free point, especially when looking at the way the trees are designed at the moment. You come down the class tree and you are left with the single target, at least, as for Arms, for example, in a single target build, I've been left with like 6 points to mess around with before getting into the capstone area, which is good, but it just means that the sidearm gets taken 100% of the time. So, yeah. Fast footwork now increases movement speed by 10%. It's better for Arms. It's still not as big of a deal for Fury, but, you know, more movement speed, it's good. New talent, it's the placeholder talent that was under Thunderous Roar. Yeah, TR's cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds. Now, this part I don't get. To better align it with various cooldowns. Now, I've already given feedback about this, because this is an incredibly misguided, like outrageously misguided piece of information. They changed Spear of Bastion to 90 seconds for specifically this reason. To align it better with other cooldowns. Because both Arms and Fury have more pronounced 90-second cooldown windows with Avatar, Recklessness, Blade Storm, Thunderous Roar, now Spear of Bastion as well. So, to give Thunderous Roar the option of a 30-second CD, it doesn't benefit either spec. Like, the only thing it benefits is The only thing it benefits is Fury with AM, and that's it. It works with AM arms. It'll work better without AM arms. In fact, how can it work with AM arms? Because you've got AM arms reducing... So Thunderous Roar as standard is 1 minute 30. Right? And if you play AM, you're making Bladestorm 1 minute roughly. And Colossus Smash is 45 as standard, and taking it to 30 just means you're using it like 1 extra time in between every Thunderous Roar. Third use of TR will line up with everything? Well, sure, but you could always not take that talent and have TR line up with everything anyway. It's not like it increases the damage that it does, it's just more use out of it. The only thing that it might be good for is that because the capstone nodes beyond Thunderous Roar are not a choice node, you could effectively take both and then have more uptime on the extra bleed damage from Thunderous Words. I still don't know fully how that works. I don't know whether it's supposed to be a thing that the Thunderous Words extra bleed damage, I don't know if that's supposed to be a thing that's like active all the time or only active when TR is up. And it would make sense to me if it was only active while Thunderous Roar was up, because otherwise that would be outrageously strong just to have that talent and then have an extra 20% bleed damage at all times. So, yeah, I don't know. This talent doesn't make sense to me because it's the only thing that I think it works with is AM Fury. And even then, with the rate that you get Rage now for Fury, I don't even think it works for that particularly well. You can get Wreck down to a 45-second CD quite easily with the way that you game Rage at the moment. Especially with Ravager. If it's overtuned, it's going to be mandatory to take both of those capstones. Sure, but that's a tuning thing. We're not really talking about tuning at the moment. We're talking about what's the point of having the option to make Thunderous Roar 30 seconds. Beyond tuning, like, with how the specs play at the moment, does this make sense? And in my mind, it's no. It's really no. You're turning this into a 60-second cooldown in a world full of 90-second cooldowns. It's the same reason that I think that AM needs to be redesigned or completely removed for arms. For Fury, it kind of works, just because we're gaining Rage so aggressively at the moment. But this, to me, doesn't make sense. Thunderous Roar direct damage has been reduced. Ah, yeah, Tormented Warlord now procs off of Avatar or Colossus Smash. That change is really big. So now you don't have to go into Thunderous Roar. You can avoid that if you want to. Or you can avoid that entirely. There's actually no reason to take it. But this is so good for... In for the kill, you've got like so much extra haste on top of the wreck. And even Test of Might, which is now better, but we'll get to that in a moment. Why would I want to remove AM? Because I think that just solidly locking in the spec to 90-second cooldowns and properly unleashing those cooldowns and making them feel good, rather than, oh, we might have to balance those cooldowns around maybe being, 60 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever, I think is a better option. AM doesn't help at the moment. AM is fine. It's fine when it comes to Colossus Smash. That's okay, because 30 seconds still fits into 90-second windows. But taking Bladestorm to 60 seconds doesn't make sense. And for Fury, you can get away with it, like I said. Fury can get away with it because you gain Rage so much and you're getting so many Rampages out that you are effectively on a 45-second cooldown. You don't like a spec that's revolved around CDs alone? I mean, that's definitely the way we're going. I mean, you know what? No, that's not true. That's not true. I don't think they are specifically going that way with Warrior. It's just the power of cooldowns at the moment, specifically for Rec. Let's talk about Rec in this. Let's talk about Rec specifically in this situation. The power of all of we'll talk about Fury specifically. The power of all of Fury's cooldowns together is so high that it'll make the damage outside of those cooldowns feel worse by comparison. And yes, some of the abilities have been nerfed, so it is slightly worse than it was. But I've missed having meaningful cooldowns for Fury. Ever since Battlecry got deleted from the game, I've missed having actual cooldowns that do something. Once you hit some haste cap, you won't be misaligning your abilities. Of course you will. Of course you will. There's no way to make Bladestorm there's no way to make Bladestorm line up unless you're going to take that 90-second cooldown all the way down to 45, and that's going to take some amount of stats for that to happen. That's not going to happen anytime soon. For Fury, it's not quite so bad, like I said. For Fury, it's kind of okay, because you already get, what am I trying to say? You already get the Rage in order to bring down Wreck. What abilities am I worried about? Bladestorm. I've said that so many times now. Bladestorm, specifically, will misalign from everything for a long time in the expansion. And it's the only thing that AM is actually good for arms, and the positioning of AM right now means you are effectively forced to take it, because you can't take you can't take In for the Kill, or Test of Might, or Blunt Instruments, or Warbreaker without hitting anger management. And yes, you can make the argument that you don't have to come down to Bladestorm if it's pure single target, I get that, but we are talking about AoE here as well, right? At least that's only on AoE. But yes, but why should we accept it's only on AoE, though? Surely we want to have everything line up properly and actually feel good to play, rather than, well, I've had to take anger management. It's M+, so I need to take Bladestorm for the AoE, and now Bladestorm is misaligning from everything else. It might be okay. Maybe the power of what is now Hurricane and was Gathering Storm is enough that you can just use the Bladestorm off cooldown. If we do okay DPS, no one wants okay DPS, but everyone wants good DPS. I don't know. I completely disagree with your sentiment. I don't think that we should sit here and accept having misaligned cooldowns and a spec that inherently feels potentially worse to play as a result. I don't think that's good, especially since we are forced into a position where you have to take anger management. It's not so bad for Colossus Smash, that's okay. But if I'm going into a pack and I have everything but Bladestorm, like, the damage might still be okay, but, I'll always be left wondering, well, what if I had Bladestorm here? Like, not ideal. Hello, Dimberg. Right, we'll continue. That is an aside. But getting back to the point of, getting back to the original point, this is why this feels so bad. Because you are forcing it into a 60-second cooldown alongside other 90-second cooldowns instead. That doesn't make sense to me. TR direct damage reduced. Recklessness now proccing off of Colossus Smash, which is really nice. Armor to the Teeth has had the strength based on armor buffed, which is good. Shockwave, Thunderous Roar are now a bit bigger. Ranks of Cruel Strike, yeah, sure. All versions of Sudden Death and Massacre have now returned to the specialization trees, sure. Ah, yes. Yeah. Capped Grip. Heroic Leap pulls what is now 4 random enemies within 10 yards to you, and doubles the cooldown of Heroic Leap. Now, given that it's only 10 yards, given that it's only 4 enemies, it might not be as strong, because, like I say, the nerfed version is, 4 enemies within 10 yards. I reckon they could have kept the yardage the same. The increased cooldown makes sense. Can you imagine having even a capped grip on a 45-second cooldown instead? Can you imagine that? No shot. No shot. But the fact that it's only 4 enemies and it is within 10 yards, it's going to have incredibly limited use. Incredibly limited use. So, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that. And it shares a node with Bounding Stride, so... To be honest, in M+, unless you need the leap for something specifically, like less than every, 1.5 minutes, what's going to make this even weirder is that we would have to break the muscle memory, and I know that every warrior has this muscle memory, of, especially in M+, finishing a pack, and then immediately heroic leaping away to get the mount off, and then get to the next pack quicker because we're so inherently slow. we'd actually have to break that. We'd actually have to break that muscle memory in case we needed it for the grip. But there could be use for it. In Raid, maybe. In M+, more likely. It's okay. It's a neat little bit of utility to have, to be fair. I don't think it's going to be quite so broken, but it'll be alright. It'll be alright. Berserker stance auto attacks are now 10% instead of 5. Reinforced plates is now 1 rank and the armor is increased by 20%. Endurance training is now 1 point. Yeah. Endurance training is now 1 point, and they've removed the avoidance from it entirely. So it's 5% stamina for 1 point, and there's no avoidance on it at all. So now there's even less reason for a DPS warrior to take this, and consequently there's even less reason to go into Shockwave, which is still below endurance training. But whatever. Endurance training, arms and protection, yeah, now also reduce the effectiveness, blah, blah, blah. That's PvP stuff, more or less. And endurance training, fury. So basically what they've done is the defensive or utility side to battle and berserker stance, they've now made available through endurance training to the warriors that don't have access to that stance. Which is good, I guess, from a PvP perspective, but I don't know. It's not that great, really. But it's fine. Okay, arms developer notes. Alright, we've changed the pathing and location of various nodes, so the Colossus Mash is located in the center of the tree to align with its importance to the arm spec. Sure. Punishment. We've decided to yeet punishment from existence. Execute damage can make up a large portion of arm specialization's damage, which we like, want to maintain, and want players to be able to choose. However, having your target in execute range for 50% of the fight warps the original intent and identity of the ability. It also means execute will need to be largely toned down and provide less general output than we'd like when it is intended to be used. When you press execute, we want it to hit hard and feel good. It's funny how they put this in these patch notes, and then in the same patch, also nerf the damage that execute is doing. An interesting decision. We want you to see big numbers and even bigger crits, and some constraints here, such as removing punishment, will allow us to better deliver on that. Yeah, sure, punishment was always going to be incredibly niche anyway. I don't know what they would have done in this current build of trees. I don't know if they would have moved it anywhere, because it was sharing a node with Exploit the Weakness, and Exploit the Weakness was always going to be taken over punishment outside of very specific situations. So I'm not too against that being removed, if I had to be honest with you. I don't think that's necessarily so bad. One sec. Turn that down a touch. Yeah, I'm not necessarily against that being removed, if I'm honest with you. Because the actual usefulness of punishment was always going to be very niche. There's very rarely a fight where you... I've said this before, there's very rarely a raid fight where you need that damage in the first 20% of a boss fight, so punishment was always going to be almost never used, in all honesty. Feeling good about where arms is at. It feels like this is the third patch in a row where they've said this, and we've seen people enjoying the playstyles throughout the alpha and beta, so our focus for arms is now on tuning, bugs, and minor changes. Sure. I'm sure they said that in the last build as well, and then we got this build, but okay. Sure. Why not? Okay. For arms, improved sweeping strikes was removed. Sure. Fatality was not providing enough damage output during testing, so now deals 200 damage per stack. It was 100%. I like seeing that. I want Fatality to be massive, so that's good. Blunt Instruments no longer gives an additional benefit to Warbreaker, as it is now part of a choice node with Warbreaker. That I find... It's not part of a choice node with Warbreaker, is it? Oh, it actually is. We'll come back to that. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that, but we'll come back to it. Gathering Storm renamed to Hurricane for some reason. Exploiter should now be functioning correctly outside of the Shadowlands and has been reduced to 25% per stack, was 50. I hate this. I hate that this has been nerfed before we've even got to use it in anything good. Yeah, this needs to be good. This can't be underwhelming. If they want arms to actually have a good execute phase, this needs to be good, man. In for the kill now increases your haste by 10 and by 25 if the target is under 35% health instead of 20. That's a nice change. Test of Might. Test of Might is good now. Test of Might is good now and grants 5% increased strength for every 30 rage, was 1% for every 10. That is really good. That is really, really good. I like this a lot. I was doing some, because I couldn't sleep last night because the changes went up and a lot was being changed, I did log on to beta briefly and started messing around with Test of Might. The highest I've got it so far, without an enhancement shaman, without bloodlust, the highest I've got it so far is 41% strength on single target outside of execute. 41%. With 11% haste. Jeez. That's actually going to be really good going down the line, I think. So, yeah, happy with that. Battle Lord, Fatal Mark, Sharpen Blades, Exhilarating Blows, now also apply Cleave. Or applied to or by Cleave. We'll get into this when we actually start going through the tree, but there's, yeah. I feel like they're gearing up for, I was talking to Arky last night, and I feel like they're gearing up for another change with Cleave, but they just haven't pulled the trigger of it yet. But we'll get to that. The Cleave actually is going to slap now. Rend caused by Blood and Thunder no longer increases stacks of collateral damage. That's fine, that was just a massive bug anyway. Moved Exploit the weakness to a later part of the tree where its power level is more in line with other talents. This makes sense, but the talent that it shares, because it's now part of a choice node. Exploit the weakness is now part of a choice node, and what it's sharing the choice node with, I don't like. It's sharing the choice node with Bloodletting. So it is asking you to make the choice between, do you want extra bleed damage, or do you want more Tactician procs? And between these two, I don't think that's even a competition. I think you almost always go for more Tactician procs, genuinely. I don't think that's even remotely close to an option. Bloodletting is okay, but I don't think it's strong enough to compete with Exploit the Weakness. It's probably strong enough to be in this portion of the tree, just. I think up here would be a little bit more accurate. But it's not strong enough to compete with Exploit, in my opinion. Exploit is insanely good. Insanely good. Can we play with Rend damage and M+ like in BFA? Yes. Alright, where were we from there? Skull Splitter now generates 30 rage instead of 20. That's a bit better for its cooldown, so I'm not too unhappy about that. Storm of Swords. Storm of Swords Whirlwind is now hasted. Storm of Swords Whirlwind is now hasted. God bless. It always should have been, but it is now properly hasted. That is so good. That is so good. I'm actually really excited about this. But we'll get into that in a moment as well. Overpower got nerfed. Juggernaut now has a cap of 15 stacks instead of 20, which is another nerf. Like, there's more nerfs to Execute when they've just said further up that they want Execute to hit hard and feel good, so we're going to nerf it as well. Auto attack damage also got nerfed by 5% for whatever reason. This Battle Lord change is pretty good. 25% I still think is high enough to be useful, but I like the rage reduction being back to 15. Also, Battle Lord affects Cleave. Battle Lord affects Cleave, which means that when it procs, you have a 5 rage Cleave. And 25% is not low. That's pretty, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Hey Magnus, thank you for the raid, man. Hope you had a good stream, bro. But honestly, between Battle Lord, between Battle Lord, also proccing Cleave, and Exhilarating Blows also proccing Cleave, again, when I was playing this last night, dude, I had 6 back-to-back Cleave procs in a row, man. I'm wondering if that might potentially legitimize not taking Reaping Swings. At the moment, I still think you want to take it. I think it's good enough that you would still want to take it. But man, you have so many things interacting with Cleave now. Cleave is actually going to be a monster. I'm so excited because I love that ability. Where are we? We need to go through the rest of the stuff. Critical Thinking now provides 5% crit strike damage per rank. Sure. And then that's pretty much it for arms. Yeah, no, mostly looks good. I don't like the fact that they're nerfing Execute in multiple ways, but I'm sure they've got their reasons. Also, the nerf to Exploiter, I think, is really bad. This, I think, is really bad. I now suddenly think that Exploiter is just not worth taking, but obviously I need actual testing and sims for that. Do you think that now it's okay to go TR with the 2 nodes active? Maybe. But again, you're trying to... When it comes to Thunderous Roar, its main competition is Spear of Bastion, and Spear of Bastion plus Elysian Might is huge, and it's only 2 points. I don't know if these together compete with this alone. And that's 3 points versus 2 in the capstone area. Spear of Bastion is just that good. Especially if in Arm's case, you play in for the kill. Because if you're hasting your spear, it does a ridiculous amount of damage. Like, jeez. I did see the fatality was applied through Cleave as well. This I find a little bit stranger. In fact, no. This one is okay. This adds some legitimacy to fatality in AoE. What was the one that I was not too sure on? Exploiter. Yeah, the fact that you can use Exploiter with Cleave. So, okay, I'll go through what I think this means now. So, most of the ways that they've changed Cleave makes sense. Exhilarating Blows, great. Battlelord, great. Fatality, sure. I won't say great, but yeah, sure. It's fine. Exploiter is a weird one, and what I think this means, Arky for a while has had the idea, and I'm sure multiple other people have as well, have had the idea that when you take Cleave, it just replaces Mortal Strike and then takes the benefit of all the Mortal Strike modifiers in the tree. Well, they've gone halfway with that. They've added Cleave to a lot of things that were proccing with Mortal Strike, like Battlelord, like Exhilarating Blows, like Exploiter, like Fatality, but then not making it replace the ability so we keep both Cleave and Mortal Strike. It feels like they've gone halfway to going through with his idea and then just haven't pulled the trigger on the rest of it. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we did see that when you take Cleave, it replaces Mortal Strike. In like a future build, whether it be the next one or the one after. I wouldn't be too surprised to see that. Because at the moment I think having access to both, and having both proc off of, again, things like Battlelord and Exhilarating Blows and what have you, is probably too strong. It's probably too strong. But yeah. No, I like it, though. I like where it's going. Like, Cleave might actually turn out to be a beast. It was already doing well, and now it's only getting better. Like, that's exciting. That is exciting. I'm so hyped for that. Oh yeah, also Sharpened Blades. Sharpened Blades also increases the crit damage of Cleave. You know what? I was looking through this build yesterday, or I was looking through these trees yesterday, and suddenly I found myself in a position where I want to go at least part way down all 3 of these branches just because of Cleave. Like, I want Sharpened Blades. I don't want Exploiter so much, but I want Sharpened Blades. Obviously, I want Bladestorm and probably Hurricane. Obviously, I now want Battlelord. I still want to exploit the weakness. I want Fatality. And you can't get all of it. So I've no idea what's going to work out as best here. I was defaulting to just doing this and this. Because at the end of the day, Sharpened Blades is not massive. It's 10% extra crit damage and then, 5% extra crit strike chance on Execute alone. So this and this do make more sense, but geez. Yeah, there's really good options now, and I like that. I'm actually kind of hyped. Just a numbers game in the end, then, but it'll always come down to a numbers game, There'll never be a time in WoW where it doesn't just come down to a numbers game ultimately. You know what I mean? Arms AoE is lackluster in Shadowlands. Yeah, that's what has me so excited about Cleave. I can't wait to get through the rest of the notes and then hit some dummies. So we're gonna go through the rest of the notes. We'll go through Fury now as well. Good design when you want them all, even if you can't get them all. I agree. Fury developer notes. Titan's Grip Fury builds are suffering a little from having more abilities than we'd like, and are feeling a little bloated in comparison to other Fury and Arms builds. With the above in mind, we've removed Siegebreaker. God bless. God bless. Get that shit out of my trees. Get that shit gone. It's always felt bad to play. Always felt bad to play. Thank Christ it's gone. I am so happy. Historically, this ability has not been well liked by players, damn straight, and has felt like a weaker version of Colossus Smash. It can also blur the identity and playstyles of Arms and Fury a little more than we'd like, and removing it will allow us to put more power into Fury's core abilities. What's strange about this is that in the very expansion where they make some very promising changes to Siegebreaker and add Deafening Crash to it, this is now the expansion where they decide to get rid of it entirely. to me that says that they just didn't have ideas for where else they could put it. That's all that says to me. Excuse me. No, happy about that. The biggest problems that Siegebreaker had before its version in Dragonflight was that only being a 10-second debuff and being on the global cooldown, it didn't do enough damage as an ability, it didn't generate enough rage, the damage increase that you got wasn't enough, and you were losing a global to actually make use of inside of that debuff window on a debuff that was already incredibly short. So you had like 9 seconds to fit in as much as you could, rather than what would have been 13 seconds including the global in Dragonflight. And the damage of Siegebreaker they had buffed as well. They'd started making promising changes to Siegebreaker. I had changed my mind on it. I was actually ready to play Siegebreaker in Dragonflight, and I didn't think it would have been that bad. This I'm more happy with, though. This I'm more happy with. Just get it gone. Just get it gone. Happy days. As mentioned previously, we're looking at opening Annihilator up to two-handed weapons. That'll be interesting. It's this that they're just doubling down. They're just doubling down on that auto-attack fantasy for both versions of Fury. And I mean, sure, if you really want to, that's fine, but we'll see. We'll see. I wouldn't be against having Annihilator open, but if it's still going to share the spot that you have to go through Storm of Swords for it, I tell you what, excuse me. If they open Annihilator up to two-handed weapons, if they keep it as a follow-on talent from Storm of Swords, that even further delegitimizes having single-minded Fury in the tree at all. At all. You don't need it there anymore. Because now you've effectively got a Titan's Grip build that serves the exact same purpose as the single-minded Fury build that you want newer players to play anyway. So if they do go through with those changes, I'm going to be putting even more pressure on to remove that shit talent. Choice nodes for Odin's Fury and Ravager may see more iteration. I'd hope so, because there's only one choice node for Odin's Fury at the moment. The new Ravager one seems weird, but we'll get to that in a second. Outside of the above-mentioned parts, we're generally happy with where Fury is at, and have seen people enjoying the updates, blah blah blah. In turn, our focus for Fury will now be mostly on tuning, bugs, and minor changes. You said that in the previous build, and then we got this, but fine. Okay, so Fury, they've removed Siegebreaker and Deafening Crash talents. Once again, just a big round of applause. Good job. Unbridled Ferocity is now 20% instead of 10. That change is really good. Frenzied Flurry is now 1 rank and increases auto-attack damage by 5. And yeah, sure, but it's still single-minded Fury. Haste no longer reduces the cooldown of Odin's Fury. Once again, yeah, round of applause. They've done really well there. Haste working on Odin's Fury was a bit weird. I didn't mind it necessarily, but this obviously just fits in better with the 90-second cooldown window, so that's fine. Really need to let Fury transfer the 200 weapons into one-handers so they can get rid of SMF. Completely agreed. Completely agree. It's the only reason they're doing it. The only reason they are doing it is because people want to play with one-handed weapons, or there are some people that want to play with one-handers. It's like, well, fine. Then transmod to them. Like, you know, you can still have that fantasy of swinging one-handed weapons around, but without affecting gameplay of the spec that you want to be the better spec. Anyway, Holmes, Thank you for the 22 months, man. Appreciate that. New talent, Dancing Blades. It's the only Odin's Fury talent that we have so far. And it's so weird. Odin's Fury increases auto attack speed by, I think it's 30% in the actual game, but by 50% for 10 seconds. It is 30%, right? Yeah, 30% for 10 seconds. Not something I expected to see. Not something I expected to see at all coming out of Odin's Fury. That really caught me off guard. That, like, super caught me off guard. I hope to God this is good, because I don't particularly like this, but we'll see. We'll see. I guess it does give it some use on single target. Again, if Blizzard are that determined for auto attacks to be a major part of Fury's, like, toolkit and Fury's damage profile, then fine. But this needs to be a really good AoE option, please. I beg. I actually beg. But yeah, it's fine. Let's move on. Gathering Storm renamed to Hurricane again. Cruelty is now 1 rank, which is good. Bloodborne now increases bleed damage by 30%. Oh yeah, Vicious Contempt got buffed to now be 50% of max ranks instead of 40, which is good. Cold Steel got buffed. Crushing Blow got nerfed. Raging Blow got nerfed. Meat Cleaver is now just 1 rank, which is good. Annihilated should correctly, yeah, sure, that's fine. Remove Wrath and Fury, replaced it with Massacre, which is no longer present on the core tree. Wrath and Fury is still there, though. They haven't removed it, they've literally just moved it around. So, yeah. Wrath and Fury still exists, so that's fine. In fact, its placement might make a little bit more sense now. Yeah, it makes more sense now, that's good. They want Fury to be as basic as it can be with some flavor. It's still got an outrageous number of cooldowns that you need to juggle. I don't know. It's a weird one. Storm of Swords. Slam's cooldown is now 12 seconds and damage increased by 200%. It also generates 20 rage. They've basically just turned Slam into Onslaught, almost. This is a weird one. Assuming that Slam is still hasted, it might not be so bad. This goes a step further to actually realizing their ambition for single-minded Fury in terms of being a more basic spec, you know? The issue was that with both of those cooldowns only on 6 seconds, and with Slam being hasted as well beyond that, you still were GCD locked. This will actually just resolve that, as far as I can tell, but we can have a quick look at that in a moment anyway. When using Storm of Swords, Whirlwind cooldown is now modified by your haste. They're both modified by haste. Ooh. That could actually be good with an AoE build suddenly. We'll keep that in mind, but that could actually be really good in an AoE build suddenly. We'll look at that in a moment as well. Ashen Juggernaut. Yes, lads, Ashen Juggernaut is back. Now, for wanting to make arms the execute spec for Warrior, it seems odd that they would add Ashen Juggernaut back into the game, for Fury specifically, but I'm not against it. Execute increases the crit chance of execute by 10% for 12 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. That's 50% extra crit chance on execute alone. Sure, why not? Tormented Titan now fixed so that it shouldn't trigger Odin's Fury. Fury now only has 1 execute in the spellbook, yep. And Prot, who cares? Okay, so quite a few changes. Arms more so than Fury, but mostly positive. I don't have that many complaints. I'm sure I'll find some when we start building out trees, but yeah, I did look at the general tree quite extensively last night, and I love the new general tree. This area is now completely fixed for Fury because you can just take bitter immunity every time, which is the last thing that Fury needs, but God bless. Yeah, and that's kind of it for Fury, if I'm honest with you. The fact that Shockwave is now over here and is accessible by only 2 talent points. Okay, this is important. This is important to note. Shockwave as an ability is now accessible by only 2 points rather than 3, because you can easily, naturally come through sidearm when you actually make a tree, because you've got so many free points when you get to like this section. So let's go let's go Fury single target, and I'll show you what I mean. So we're looking at, well, we want honed reflexes, so we need to come through fast footwork. So from here, you've got 2 points to play around with. And you've got defensive stance, fucking impending victory, spell reflect, like 3 really good options. So we'll just go like that for now. In fact, no, we won't. Better idea. Let's go like that for now. That's better, because we're going to have more points later on anyway, so that's fine. The left side is easy now, because you can literally just take bitter immunity every time, which again is the last thing that Fury needs. Crushing Force, obviously, if you want to play Storm of Swords, sure, but we'll think about that in a bit. Frothing Berserker, Reinforced Plates. Barbaric Training I still think is worth taking from a throughput point of view. We now have everything that I think you would need as far as throughput is concerned in the tree. Sidearm is a bit of a weird one, because it does proc on single target as well, but I don't think it would be absolutely necessary until you realize that you have 6 points to play around with. So now sidearm is completely free. Again, if we're talking single target, we don't need seismic reverb, so now it's 5 points for survivability, utility, whatever you want. So like what? Second wind you could have, intervene for some mobility you could have, impending victory, spell reflect, and even then we still have 1 point left over to mess around with. The point economy in the general tree now is so free, it's unreal. I was saying in my Discord last night that the tagline for Warrior in Dragonflight right now is just, it's so free. Everything is just so free. And I'm enjoying it. Pain and Gain is in a weird spot. It is. Fury no longer has access to Pain and Gain, but considering that Fury now always has access to bitter immunity, I think that's okay. The last thing that Fury needs is even more self-sustain. I'd have been fine with not being able to take bitter immunity, in all honesty. I'd have been completely fine with that. But no, they have decided that, no, we're just going to give you bitter immunity, again, for free. It's so free. It's so free. So, yeah. But then, like I say, you got one point to mess around with, so again, 1 in Overwhelming Rage for now. Why not? Dual Wield Spec is obviously still an absolute must. Armored to the Teeth, Avatar, and either of these, obviously. And then still fully believe that this is just a much better option. Quick Thinking, I'm sure, is still supposed to scale properly. But you could do something like that. I mean, even from here, you've got 2 points left over to put kind of wherever you want. So you can either do that for really good increased stats, you could do like an extra point into Overwhelming Rage, and then what you could do is if you were going to play Storm of Swords, you still have access to Crushing Force really easily, while taking almost everything else that you need to take. It's just mad how free this tree is now. I actually really enjoy this tree. So, yeah, point economy in the general tree is just insanely good. Insanely good. I don't even know where I would take it from here. Let's just do that for fun. And let's go down the Fury tree as well real quick. Could even take Shockwave for the 2 points. You're right, yeah, with those hold on. With those 2 points. Where did I put the other one there? But yeah, with those 2 points you could even easily freely take Shockwave on its own as well. It's so free. It is so free. Shockwave is easy to take now. While not sacrificing any damage, really. You're not getting Thunderous Roar, but you would never take it anyway. You're not getting Quick Thinking, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's going to be... Shockwave, you'd be looking at M+. Auto attack speed is not going to be that necessary in M+. So, yeah, no, it's free. Like, Shockwave is very easily taken now. You don't get any of the follow-on talents, but that's fine. I don't think you need either of these. I think Shockwave is fairly weak on its own, and it would only be slightly less weak with these two, but yeah. Is Thunderous Roar bad? I don't know. It's a tuning thing. It's a tuning thing. But even if it's not bad, then you would just come out of there and then go through here instead. You know what I mean? So, that, like, this and this are just options that you have. And if you say you needed the extra point in one of these two, then you just wouldn't take Shockwave anymore, and then you could come all the way out of here, take both, and then you're left with 1 point left over for whatever you want. Like, another point in Overwhelming Rage, 1 in Cruel Strikes, 1 in Endurance Training, whatever you want. But I do like the idea of that, to be fair. Having Shockwave be relatively free now is actually quite good when it comes to M+. That's a really good sign for Fury. I don't know how that works out for Arms, but we'll have a look. Because Arms has a little bit worse point economy since you have to go through Thunderclap and Blood and Thunder when it comes to AoE. But obviously, if this was to be single target, we wouldn't go there, and we'd be going, like, I don't know, let's say there and there for now, because I still think that getting 5% extra stamina for free and losing out on 2.5% auto attack speed or 15 rage, I think is actually 100% worth it. Is Shockwave damage good with the talent? I don't know. I haven't tried it properly. I will at some point, but I haven't tried it. The problem is, I don't think it can be good for the simple fact that if you make Sonic Boom good and Shockwave actually do good damage, the concern is that you'll never want to use a utility spell for utility, which kind of sucks quite hard. You know? That would be pretty awkward. That would be pretty awkward. So, yeah, no, general tree looks good. We like that. So, what were we thinking? Single target mostly? So we're looking at things like the usual start, something like that. Cruelty is now very free. Improved Whirlwind is still necessary. Meat Cleaver, not so much. Massacre, Rampage, Ashen Jug, Focusing Chaos. Probably Wrath and Fury as well. And then these three, and then this. Oh, yes, Skull Banner. Right, we need to talk about this. Skull Banner is now also incredibly free for both Arms and Fury. It's almost at a point where you are trolling if you don't take Skull Banner with its current positioning. It shares a choice node with Blood Craze. That is not equal power. I don't consider these equal power at all. I think Skull Banner is so much better. It's very weird. Which means that you're effectively just looking to take Skull Banner now. I don't know if I like that. I mean, Skull Banner's a weird one. Skull Banner's such a weird one, because I don't know, without making adjustments to the talent itself, I don't know where you can put it that you could take it as an option or ignore it if you didn't need it for a particular fight. Because if you put it on a 2-minute CD, then it's going to line up with Combust every time, and then it becomes too strong to give up. On a 3-minute CD, it's too weak to take, but if you put it here, what it shares potential point spots with are not good enough to compete with Skull Banner. It's really odd. Skull Banner fits our damage profile just fine, though, because it's a 3-minute cooldown and we fit into 90-second CD profile. So that's... Yeah, Skull Banner affects you as well, of course it does. But Skull Banner for the Warrior is not so bad, because it does fit into our damage profile. You know? It does mean that it's like every second set of full CDs that you get Skull Banner with, but that's fine. It's just, you're not going to be looking to use it for the group. I was already hard considering taking Skull Banner when it came to dungeons every single time. You know? In dungeons, it's going to be far easier to make use out of Skull Banner there than it will out of, than it will in Raid. So, yeah. That's, I don't know. It's going to be a weird one. I don't like where it is right now. I'm not entirely sure what you could do to it or where you could put it in order to make it a better option or more of an option rather than an absolute must take. But yeah, Blood Craze is not that good, especially with Raging Blow. Maybe Blood Craze is slightly better when it comes to AoE, but throw it in the class tree. Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, they opened it up to Prot as well now, didn't they? Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad option, but then where do you put it? Because if you put it in the capstone area, which I think would be their first idea, you would probably have to put it as an extra point off of the weapon spec, and then you have too many points in here again all of a sudden. At the weapon spec spot. So you what? You want to put it there as a choice node with the weapon spec? Does banner stack if two warriors put them down beside each other? Don't know. Would be easy enough to test though. Or move weapon spec into the row up. Maybe. I feel like I'd be so apprehensive to mess with the point economy of the general tree, because right now this point economy is really good. Imagine it was above shockwave instead of endurance training. Yeah, that would be a bit wild. I don't know. It's a weird one. I don't mind the idea of putting it in the class tree since all three specs have access to it anyway, but it's just a case of where would you put it is a bit of a tough one. Let me finish off this tree anyway. So naturally we'll want to come here, here, and here. Still think Hurricane is really good. Oh yeah. Ravager's other choice node. Storm of Steel. Ravager's damage is reduced by 50%, but now has 2 charges. It's almost the same problem, almost the same problem, than with Uproar from Thunderous Roar. Having 2 charges is all well and good, but when are you going to use that second charge when it's not with all the other cooldowns? Especially for 50% reduced damage. Ravager's damage is actually really good, in particular on AoE, but it wasn't doing too bad on single target. But in particular on AoE, Ravager damage is really good. You wouldn't want to sacrifice that just to give it a second charge. I feel like a second charge will only be good with if you're playing anger management again. But yeah, when the tank moves, maybe the Ravager follows anyway. I just don't think it's worth the 50% reduced damage, when the only time that you really want to use Ravager is with all the other cooldowns anyway. Does Ravager get you the same amount of rage? I mean, it's just a second charge. It's only the damage that's been reduced, nothing else. So it would still give the same amount of rage. I just don't see how that competes with... The more important point, I don't see how that competes with Hurricane. You know what I mean? I would much rather have that extra 30% strength than a second charge on Ravager for half the damage. You know? You're right, it could be huge for rage economy, but I feel like if you invest that heavily into... If you put 2 Ravagers down together, for example, you're going to overcap your rage so hard. You'll be using Rampages, forcibly using Rampages back to back, where at the moment, with a Ravager down, you can Whirlwind Rampage all the time. If it was 100% damage, would I see it work? I think it would be more competitive with Hurricane if that was the case. Yeah. Yeah. And in which case, it would just be a tuning thing as to whichever one is better is the one that you'll play. It's a weird one, though, because that second charge... I honestly feel like that second charge has almost no use. Like, take the 50% reduced damage off. Ravager itself as an ability will do more damage with Storm of Steel. But all of your other cooldowns outside of just Ravager will do more damage with Hurricane. It would be an interesting choice. That could honestly end up being... outside of just... whichever one does more damage you'll take. That could be a really interesting choice in terms of how people want to play. Do you want to have more damage on Ravager specifically, or more damage on everything else? Even then, I don't think it's competitive. I think Hurricane wins it every time when you consider the other things that we've got, like Odin's Fury, and whatever this will be, because this is an abomination. Spear of Bastion, Avatar behind it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. Still think you play Hurricane. Raptor, thank you for the 6 months, bro. Welcome back, man. Right, let me finish off this tree. I'm really disillusioned by Onslaught and Pulverize now. I don't think they're all that good. Reckless Abandon. Unbridled Ferocity is really good again, and then I guess you could always go like this. I guess you could always go like this. So we would have something a little bit like this. That initially is what I'm looking at. Odin's Fury still hasted? No, removed as of this build. Removed as of this build. But this is initially something that I'm looking at for Fury on single. Yes, even sidearm. Did they remove the short dash on RA? Yeah, they did. And Siegebreaker's gone, yeah. Fury has anger management still, yeah. I will prove my point. One sec. So I was saying before about the rage economy of Fury and how it's so aggressive that with AM you effectively have Wreck on a 40-second CD. This is what I mean. This is not what I mean. This is what I mean. Let me get Wreck back first and then I'll show you what I mean. Maybe you want to take armaments again. Unbridled Ferocity is still proccing RA as well, by the way. Do I like the new UI? It's alright. The change to the player unit frame, at least, is kind of meh. But, for the most part, yeah, I think it's good. It covers a lot of what I think we would want anyway. Was there recent changes to Fury stat priority? If you mean on the beta, no idea. Can you link a Fury build and get my thoughts on it? In a moment, yeah. Do they have buff debuff filtering yet? No, still no. Which is a big problem, obviously. Right, now I'll prove my point. Hold on. So the idea is you have so much rage coming in that Wreck will effectively be a 45-second cooldown. If it's anything like it was last time. I know I didn't use Skull Banner, that's not the point. See? Look how quickly that's come down. Look at this. Also, I find it weird that a lot of things that are proccing off of Rampage, by the way, are proccing off the end of Rampage. Like hack and slash procs at the end of Rampage. Unbridled Ferocity procs at the end of Rampage as well. It's quite weird. The spec is just exactly the same as it is on live, like, from top to bottom. More or less, just more cooldowns to use. So I think that right now Crushing Blow doesn't do an awful lot of damage. And last I saw, I don't know if it's been changed, but Crushing Blow wasn't stacking Slaughtering Strikes. So If, for some reason, that is intentional, then you could easily just play AM. But the more haste you get, the more aggressive that CDR is going to end up being. So obviously, the more Raging Blows you're going to fit in, the more rage we're going to have. Yeah. It's going to be wild. Rek is going to have, like, such a low amount of downtime, in all honesty. Odin's Fury does still do physical damage, yeah. So does Spear, by the way. I feel like that's just the design intent for both of them now, to just be physical damage. I think it's not escaped Blizzard's notice, in the way that I've also been thinking about it, that there are slowly becoming less and less pure physical damage classes in the game. And that's not good, because it begins to slowly invalidate Monk debuff more and more and more. So, if they can start stripping away some of the inherent magic damage on some classes, that will be a positive thing for Monk, at least. Bring back Armor Pen. I prefer it over Versatility, that's for sure. But yeah, no, you get the idea that I was going with anyway. Or you get my point. AM for Fury is insanely aggressive and brings down Rek pretty easily, about the same amount that it's bringing it down on live at the moment, with significantly less haste. I have 40% haste with Enrage up on beta. Only 40. That's not a lot by comparison to live. It's just, yeah, we have a lot of extra rage coming in. Playstyle, it's exactly the same way as live. It's just prioritizing Raging Blow and getting as many rampages out as possible. Only now is it going to desync quite horrifically, but I think that's because I delayed the use of it. That's the first time that it's properly desynced quite hard, and even then it would be within 10 seconds based on that extra rampage I used just now. So it's still not terrible. And that whole burst window just feels really good. Yeah, anyway. You get the point. Now, what I wanted to look at was Storm of Swords. But how am I going to look at Storm of Swords? So I play big XQ crits and arms? Yeah, true. I saw the question before about whether I meant to take Improved Whirlwind. Yeah. Otherwise, Whirlwind's going to cost Rage. You need to take this if you want Whirlwind to be free / generate Rage. Which does make it a little bit harder to take Sudden Death, but I think that's okay. Especially considering that we take Massacre anyway. I have a build that uses Storm of Swords. Yeah, I'll look at other builds in a moment. I want to look at my own thoughts first before I get into what other people are saying. But this is more of an AoE thing that we're looking at, so I want... maybe that. Yeah. Probably about as far as I need to go on that right-hand side. Fresh meat, obviously. Maybe make an argument for Vicious Contempt. You're only going to get 1 point in it, though. So if we're looking at things that are like 1 point for economy, Hack and Slash would be pointless. We're looking at more Bloodthirst use anyway. Slaughtering Strikes, fairly similar story. Juggernaut wouldn't be bad. I think Juggernaut's got such good potential, man. Massacre also wouldn't be terrible. Go with that for now. Storm of Swords, we don't need Annihilator just yet. We still want that. That'll probably be an AoE version, but we think about that in a moment. And you don't have enough to go all the way through there. We would be looking at something like that to round it off with, or going like that. Slaughtering Strikes only seems worth if you take Annihilator. Annihilator is significantly less damage that you're getting out of it, though. I think Slaughtering Strikes on single target with Raging Blow is very, very good. Outside of cooldowns. Inside cooldowns, you don't get enough Raging Blows in per Rampage. But outside CDs, I think it's really good. Let me go with this to begin with. Don't like where they put Odin's Fury. I don't know. Makes sense to me. Let's go with this as well. Oh, that was something I wanted to look at, actually. I mean... the auto-attack damage is garbage. I mean, you can argue that it's still 10%, but... Maybe, we'll see. Might have also not been in Berserker stance that entire time, so we'll do it again a bit later, but... Change the slam in the general tree? Oh, but it's going to be for AoE. I'm less bothered about using slam. In fact, I don't think I would use slam. Maybe I would, actually. It is 20 rage now that it generates, actually. Maybe you would. 10k damage? Fucking hell. Yeah, we would definitely use that. Oh, where am I going to put you? Let's put you there for now. That's actually that is actually unironically the highest sheet damage that you've got out of any of your filler abilities. But at the same time, Bloodthirst is only half of it on like a fifth of the cooldown, so I guess that's not too bad. Hello, Stricken. Probably right to prioritize Bloodthirst above almost anything else, especially when it comes to Cold Steel. Oh, the shark is a trinket. It's this trinket. Cold Steel's not doing too bad now, huh? Slam is kind of whatever. I guess you don't need it so much. Odin's Fury damage is still really good. Sidearm is just free, so who cares? Ravager's not that great, but it is helping with a Hurricane a lot. Whelming damage seems pretty strong without Bone Grinder. Yeah, that's also without Seismic Reverb as well, by the way. That's without Seismic Reverb. That's just with Barbaric Training. Let me make adjustments to this tree and we'll go again. Seismic, sidearm, sorry, Barbaric, sidearm, Seismic. Boom, 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 boom. Why not, huh? Why not? If we're gonna play it, why the fuck not? You know what I mean? Boom, boom, for the sake of utility. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. And 2 points. Boom, boom. Yeah. There's a lot of rage income here. Let me see about trying to waste less rage. Let me see about trying to waste less rage here. It is raining really heavily outside. Good morning, Smokin. How are you? Thank you for the 17 months, my guy. Elysian Might is surely better for 1 point... What? Elysian Might is surely better for 1 point than a haste? I don't know what you mean. Elysian Might is far stronger than almost anything else down here. Like, almost everything else. The other one? Oh, Piercing Verdict. Right. Maybe. It's a weird one, though, because the majority of Spear's damage is not from the initial impact. It's from the ticking damage over time afterwards, so... Yeah. And you don't need the extra rage. We're already... You saw it before. We're already swimming in rage. Like, that's not super necessary. But you might be... For the sake of just raw AoE, you might not be wrong. I do like the idea of 2 points and overwhelming to try and waste less rage during CDs. But I do get your point, definitely. Let me relog real fast, because should hopefully reset fresh meat. Right. Let me go for this again. Let me just no, let's not link that to anybody. Let's just reset that. Get the flask off as well. When the fuck did I use that? It was a 14k. It was a 14k slam just now. I still think you prio Bloodthirst over Slam, though. Right? Seems like the right choice. Especially with cold steel. Should probably have prioed it over the rampage as well. How's an RA build feel in single target? It's okay. Will Whirlwind CD become an issue if we get absurd amounts of haste? I doubt it, because the Whirlwind CD is hasted now as well as the Slam one. That Slam cooldown is very aggressively hasted as well. I also wonder if, with the amount of damage that Whirlwind's doing, maybe if you get it back earlier, it might actually be worth just sending. Probably not. Not if you're going to miss out on a... Not if you're going to delay a Bloodthirst. Definitely not. Well, Slam's definitely doing a lot better now than it was. Let me try this again then. The burst window feels okay. Spear damage seems a bit underwhelming. Maybe. Maybe. Dumbledore not giving a shockwave? I don't know, you say that. You say that, but I actually think shockwave is a lot easier to hit now. Like, genuinely, I think it's easier to hit. I was saying it earlier in the stream, the fact that it's now 2 points, you can come down here and have 2 points left over, which, if you wanted to, could easily hit Shockwave. Like, you don't need these 2 points in Overwhelming Rage, you can just do that instead. And as far as actual throughput is concerned, there's nothing else on here that's all that good for throughput. All you're missing out on is maybe a little bit of auto attack speed and some haste, which is kind of whatever, or you can have 5% extra stamina, which is very useful, and Shockwave, which is obviously good. Or you could go Piercing Verdict and something else if you really wanted to, but yeah. You know, let's do it again. And what people were saying about the spear damage looking like subpar, I do kind of agree. Let's try it again with Piercing Verdict as well, and we'll see how that affects it. And let's go quick thinking as well, just for the sake of getting as much throughput out of this as we can. We'll see about that. There's also like a point here that we would need to find to potentially go here. Because obviously Dancing Blades we wouldn't take for AoE. It's all about this though. We'll wait for Banner to come back as well. We're going to overcap like mad with this, though. Especially without Overwhelming Rage. The amount of overcapping that's about to happen is going to be off the charts. Move 1 point in Crashing Force and put it in Sonic Boom for the damage. But you wouldn't want it for the damage. The whole point of having Shockwave would be to use it for utility. If you started going Sonic Boom and you wanted it for the damage, you're going to start using Shockwave off cooldown for the damage rather than holding it the stun for utility. And in that case, Shockwave has completely failed in its... Shockwave will have completely failed in its mission. I see what you did there, Zolway. Alright, Misty, rest well. Is damage even any good? Not sure. Would have to look into it. Sonic Boom feels really discarded, like a discarded Thunderous Roar node. Yes, doesn't it just? Because it's effectively trying to turn Shockwave into what Dragon Roar almost was, right? But yeah, I get entirely what you mean with that. I have exactly the same feeling. Alright, let's try again. Overcapping. Yikes. That's the problem with wanting to get everything out at once. This is what I don't get about Shockwave and people wanting it. It's like, we originally had everyone saying that we want Shockwave back because we want the extra utility, we want the AoE stun, and now that Sonic Boom has been even remotely considered as an option, everyone's like, oh, I kinda want it to do damage. It's like, that's not the point. We want it for the utility. Sonic Boom shouldn't exist. Sonic Boom is giving everyone the wrong idea. Sonic Boom needs to be taken out. 100% it needs to be gotten rid of. I think that's the bin lorry outside of my window. Let me just go throw Siege Breaker down there for them. Come back, lads. I've got Siege Breaker for you. Yeah, even with Piercing Verdict, it hasn't changed Spear of Bastion that much. This is almost pretty much the damage breakdown no matter what we've played so far. Not much has changed it. Slam seems to be doing a bit better. I don't know what's changed for Slam to be so good. I wonder if it's just... It can't even really be the crit rate. It's barely critting that much. This opener you get aggro and die anyway. Yeah, you know what? You're probably not wrong. You know what? You're probably not too wrong. Make Spear a different color or something. They should just change the animation entirely. Realistically. How much is Odin's Fury doing together? 5%, 11.9. So it's higher than Spear. Without a good follow-up AoE placeholder talent. Or without a good follow-up capstone talent, rather. Having it with Tormented Titan, Odin's Fury is doing really good damage on AoE. I like that. What am I going to drop for Odin's? That's a good question. You could drop Banner. You could drop Banner. You could drop Massacre. Maybe Massacre. I think you might actually just drop Massacre. I think that's going to be the better option. Because again, Banner fits very well for our own CDs, so it might still be worth playing, especially with its positioning. You know? Fresh Meat? No, you'll play Fresh Meat. If you consider this from an M+ point of view, you'll play Fresh Meat. Of course you will. Of course you will. What you could do is, between Raid and M+, you could make the choice between Fresh Meat and Sudden Death. Because it won't affect anything up here. You can take that out and put it over here. So like in Raid, on more single target based fights, you can have Sudden Death if there's just a bit more cleave to be had. And in M+, you can play Fresh Meat instead of Sudden. Because I'll be honest, at least with Storm of Swords, the rotation is already pretty rammed. Or the rotation is rammed enough as it is to not need random rec procs on top of that. In fact, execute procs. In fact, in execute already, it's going to be quite hard to juggle around with. That's why we haven't taken Ashen Juggernaut. Even though I think this would also be really good in AoE. Just a free 50% crit chance on execute. What do I prefer to play in Mythic Prog? Whatever's strongest at the time, I don't really have a preference, but based on what I'm seeing so far, I think I would prefer to play Arms. I haven't done anything in-game as Arms yet. Would Blood Craze be decent in Cleave just to enable CSHB? Yeah, it would. If you're using it that much, it definitely would. Whether it competes with the burst with Skull Banner, though, I don't know. So that's the thing. Like when we consider M+, you know the burst damage is always a bigger plus in M+ than actual consistent cleave is. So I feel like Skull Banner would probably outweigh Blood Craze for that reason, even if we are using Bloodthirst literally every other global. But you're right, it is decent. I just don't know whether it competes with Skull Banner or not, which is why having Skull Banner here is so weird. Blood Craze is okay in that very specific situation, but Skull Banner is just good all the time for you as the warrior because it'll always line up with your CDs, and it can just be a bonus for everyone else. Doesn't Windwalker Monk with Kiefer's pop every 3 minutes also? Oh, very, very possible. I don't know, though. I don't know that much about Windwalkers at the moment. Arms Raid and M+ Fury. Honestly, I think even Arms in M+, but we'll get into that in a moment. In fact, there's not a whole lot more that I want to look at here. Not being able to come down this way, the fact that both Odin's Fury and Ravager, especially with Hurricane, feels so good for AoE, and not being able to come down here to get Unbridled Ferocity feels a bit meh. But I guess you don't need it, really. You certainly don't need depths, not if you're... Yeah, no, you don't need depths. I think we're fine without it. The Skull Banner raid buff now is still party. Still party, still within 20 yards. I'm gonna give feedback again for that, actually. Shouldn't be limited to both party and 20-yard range. One or the other will be fine. Is opportunity cost the new meaningful choice? It certainly is. Certainly is. Anger management would fuck up cooldowns? Not so much, because it would probably just end up lining up Wreck with every Odin's Fury, which means Odin's Fury would do even more damage. But in order to hit anger management, you would have to give up Ravager and a Hurricane, most likely. And again, it's a question of burst, which I think Ravager suits better compared to consistent AoE, which I think anger management and Unbridled Ferocity suit more. It's funny though, because the points in critical thinking, I think, in a build like this are fairly wasted, because we don't use Raging Blow all that much. Where is Raging Blow? Yeah, there you are. Like, Raging Blow, by comparison to everything else, 24 uses of Raging Blow to 41 of Rampage, 36 of Whirlwind, 68 of Bloodthirst, 17 of Slam, but it's on a long cooldown, so yeah. Was War Machine 50% on Dragonfly Alpha? At one point, yeah. At one point it was 50% for all 3 specs, then it went to 50% prot, then it went to 25% for all, 20% for all, and then they split them between the specs. So 50 for prot, 20 for Fury, and 10 for arms, which was weird. Still think that should be swapped around between arms and Fury, but never mind. That's what it is. That's why it doesn't get triggered by Avatar and Subtalent. Hopefully that'll be changed. That would be nice. Right. Try to think if there's anything else that I want to look at. I'm just really hyped to look at arms, to be fair. So I don't think there's anything immediately that I want to look at. Things that we already know. RA is still proccing off of Unbridled Ferocity, which is good. This is pretty garbage. Hurricane is still very good. These talents are mostly a waste now. Storm of Swords works really well in AoE at the moment. Let me quickly have a look and see how this would work on single target, actually. I'm quite intrigued. It would just work, right? Like, yeah. I mean, let's see when we get out of cooldowns, I suppose. Because obviously if we were to play this in M+, then single target actually matters as well. When Morcasides line up perfectly with Banner. Alright, that's pretty sick. Maybe we can get away with just giving it to melee. Is it better to have Ravager benefit from spear passives? You would, though. The way I'm using it right now, you would. They don't snapshot. Still think you want to get the Ravager down first. So you've got the rage from that ticking, and you've got the strength building from Hurricane. $33k slam crit. Ha! $52k slam crit. Jeez. Maybe you do prioritize slam above Bloodthirst in single target then. You know what? With Storm of Swords, make Slam hit with the offhand as well, and I'm giga happy with Storm of Swords. It actually doesn't feel too bad to play with. Slam is doing damage. Is the 2 extra Meat Cleaver hits enough to cover the extra Whirlwind CD? Yeah. I mean, when you have the extra Whirlwind CD, your 4 abilities are fitting nicely into Meat Cleaver anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. Slam actually does damage though. It's kind of cool. Look at Slam go. In fact, it's almost competing. If I was using it more aggressively, it might actually be competing with Bloodthirst. Almost. Slam CD scale with haste? Yeah. With Enrage up, we're down to 8.8 seconds at the moment. How did I forget to put Ravager down? Look how close it is to Bloodthirst on single target, though. For being used, like, effectively 5 times less. Crit haste stats for Slam build? Something like that. Alright, now Bloodthirst's pulling ahead a little bit. Okay, we're getting some crits on it now. Yeah, interesting. This thing is mad. Yeah, 63k highest crit. That's weird, man. Is the way Slam is getting in your action bar as Fury? I don't know. With damage like this, I don't know. Do you want me to quickly have a look at single-minded Fury? Should we do it just for the content? Let's have a look. I want to quickly readjust this for single. Just go with something like that for now. Hmm. For a 32% uptime, that's not terrible. And you would gear more towards crit for single-minded Fury anyway. The damage of Gushing Wound might end up being quite good. Let's roll with something like this for now. There's probably better ways to refine it, but we'll hit this for the time being, and then we'll see what happens. Annihilator. Do I have one-handed weapons on me? Ah, that's a good point. I actually can't try single-minded fury, can I? Because I don't think I have any one-handed weapons. I have a dagger. I don't have any one-handed weapons, do I? I don't have any prop weapons. Huh. Nope. Alright, well, we can't do that right now then. But I'll keep this in mind. I'll keep that in mind for now. Heirloom weapon? Ugh. I don't think it'd be worth it for the sake of testing, though, no? Because we would actually want to start looking at damage as well. Yeah, not if we're actually starting to look at damage. No, I don't think so. So a way to get into 70 characters on the beta? No, you have to do the whole leveling process. They might change that in like the next couple of builds, but you still have to do the whole leveling thing at the moment, Chris. The thing that Odin's very benefit from the final node of Odin's Fury. No. Not at the moment, no. That's not affecting Dancing Blades. But it probably will. I can only imagine that it's a bug that it doesn't. If it does, then you'll probably play Tormented Titan with Single-Minded Fury, I would imagine. Because you're going to want the extra auto-attack speed as often as possible, for sure. Damn, how do I not have any one-handed weapons? Fine, whatever. We'll come back to that at a point that I've actually got you know, one-handed weapons to be able to test that with. Now, the part that I really wanted to test. Right. AoE with arms. That's what I really wanted to look at. Let me just try and quickly make a build here. 2 points. I think you're probably naturally going to go that way. Barbaric training makes sense. Crushing force on AoE not needed because we're not really pressing slam. Frothing Berserker. Either of those is fine. Seismic reverb, sidearm. Yup. All makes sense. Now we've got just some throughput, I guess. Maybe you could make an argument for crushing force. Oh yeah. Thunderclap and Blood and Thunder, of course. But maybe you could make an argument for crushing force when it comes to single target. Because you are going to still need to use slam on bosses. Because yes, I'm going to be playing Storm of Swords. You better believe I'm playing Storm of Swords. Also gives arms the option to get pain and gain. God bless. Fervor? Nope. Not playing Fervor. No shot. Yeah, this last point can go pretty much anywhere. Like, we've got a point in Crushing Force, we've got Impending Victory, which is obviously really good. Pain and Gain is fine. Overwhelming Rage, good option. Stormbolt, good option for M+, which might be the natural option for M+, anyway. Assuming there are things that you actually need to stun. Second Wind, also really good. Depending on the dungeon, fight, whatever. For now, I'm just going to put it in Stormbolt, because I can imagine that would be like a very natural choice. I need you. I don't think I need you. Right, I'm going to do this for now, and then I might revisit it. And honestly, even from here, like, I don't think you need Thunderous Roar. I really don't, because I'm not going to go down as far as Thunderous Words. I can't. I don't have the points. I'm not going to take Bloodletting over Exploit the Weakness. I think Exploit the Weakness is just better, straight up. So from here, like, it is possible to do this if you really wanted to. Or, again, we can get the little bit of single target value over here and then take this, or take this. Or even come over here and take this if we really wanted to, but I don't think that's necessary either. Blade Storm is not a big portion of our damage. One minute Roar? Absolutely not. I guess you could always go Piercing Verdict. You know what, for the sake of argument right now, let me do this. Let me just grab Roller, because why the hell not? Could do. But let me go through with this. But actually, you know what? I did do it in the previous build. We'll do this again for now, and then we'll mess around with it and see what happens. Right, I'm not going to take Fervor, because I am taking Storm of Swords wherever it's gone. There. I am taking Storm of Swords, so we won't take Fervor, because that's mostly pointless. Fueled by Violence in order to hit Colossus Smash. Blood Surge in order to hit Tactician. Rend, obviously. Dreadnought, yes. Exhilarating Blows, yes, because it affects Cleave now. God bless. AM we're forced to take, which is kind of annoying. Warbreaker, yes. Let's go Tom, I guess. Impale, Sweep, Storm of Swords. We now have 1 point left. Cleave. We want Reaping Swings as well. Maybe we... No, we do want Reaping Swings. Yeah, no, we do. We do, for sure. I'm still not too sure about Test of Might here, but we'll see. I want to see how big this ends up being. Now, the way I was doing this last night was also Deft Experience, Battle Lord for even more Cleave resets, Exploit the Weakness, Fatality, because I think that's probably going to end up being pretty decent on AoE, just having like... Because again, Cleave is applying Fatality. So while you're doing AoE, you're building Fatality stacks, and it can be incredibly aggressive if you get resets with Exhilarating Blows, you know, Exploit the Weakness with Battle Lord. Just to have like big executes at the end of a pack and just try and kill each mob one by one. That's going to be so good. That's going to be so good. Valorant Victory, Blade Storm, and then I guess maybe Bone Grinder. But I don't think you have to go down this way either. I think you could completely forsake going Blade Storm. You don't need it because you're not taking Blade Master. So you could then come down here and take Sharpened Blades, which also increases Cleave's crit damage. You wouldn't go any further than that, so you would be left with 1 point to put kind of wherever you want. And the options there are either 1 point in Bloodborne, taking Skull Banner, which is never a bad idea. Again, M+, I think there's actually value there. Valorant Victory, Improved Overpower. I think that's a Skull Banner every day of the week. I actually don't think you need the Blade Storm. Massacre? Maybe if you needed it for the single target, but I actually think the single target's probably not too bad, considering that you're playing both Exhilarating Blows and Battle Lord. Like, those two alone will help carry your single target, plus Fatality. They'll help carry your single target. I really think so. And we're playing Sudden Death, because we don't want to take Fervor. I honestly think something like this. Does Tormented Warlord not benefit from Warbreaker? It probably should. It probably should. And that would make it a pretty decent option, to be fair, if it did. We'll see. We'll do this for now, and then we'll mess around with it afterwards. But honestly, I'm loving how this looks right now. Let me get rid of you. Let me put you there. Cleave can go... You know what? No, Cleave can stay there. Alright, let me just reset that. Cole, you're a candidate from retail. Is probably something wrong with retail Plater. I don't know if Plater's working right now. I'm just using all the basic blizzards. The only add-on I have is details. I don't feel like I need anything else right now. Right, let's... Oh, that was it. Yeah, I still think In for the Kill is better. I still think in for the kill is better, but let me try this, because this is going to be weird. Also, it looks like they've just broken... It also looks like they've just broken Warbreaker again, if I just saw that right. I got a bit thrown off, because I think they've broken Warbreaker again. Oh, you bastards. They've fucking broken it. So it seems like it's not working on Cleave. Yeah, it is. There's a fatal mark there. 2 fatal marks here, but this is the one that we had targeted. There's one there now. Yeah, it's working. Oh, I still really don't like Test and Might when it comes to AoE. Maybe that's just me overthinking it. 25%. Yeah, I think if you have to use so many overpowers, maybe in AoE it's not too good. Blood and Thunder is weird because it's bugged where it's counting player pets as viable targets for Rend spread. Which is obviously completely broken. So, yeah. The fact that I'm testing here with an Enhancement Shaman who's jizzing out wolves like he's on crack does not help because I can't spread this properly. But I don't know where else I could test this without having, like, conduits getting in the way. Because I know there's the 5 dummies in the Bastion area, but conduits are still a thing. Right? In those areas. Borealis? Is there an AoE dummy section in Borealis? You can just slot out your conduits. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Let's do that. Let's go there. There is an org too. Not really. They're quite spread out. I need them to be somewhat grouped up. I know the Venthia one works well. Yeah, let's go. Where do I want to go? Do I want to go Borealis? Or do I want to go... Nah, let's go, I could go Borealis for it. It's alright, in AoE I wouldn't be using Execute anyway. Exploiter also buffs Cleave. Yeah, but it's a weird one, because in what situation are you going to be slamming Execute and then pressing Cleave afterwards? Like I was saying before, it feels weird. All they've done here is they've taken Arky's idea of replacing Mortal Strike with Cleave when you take it, gone halfway by putting it into all the things that you get with Mortal Strike, and then just not pulling the trigger by making it replace. I wouldn't be surprised if in either the next build or the build after, they just go the whole way and make Cleave replace Mortal Strike. Which would be really good, by the way. It would still be really good. This right now is potentially too strong, because you have access to really good Cleave from Cleave, and then really good single target from Mortal Strike as well. You know? It's weird. Where was I going to go? Oh, yeah. Let's go to, let's go to Bastion. I have my wormhole toy, actually. Doesn't Valdrakken have... I think Valdrakken has dummies somewhere as well, but I might be wrong. Wouldn't it be too much of a single target loss to be worth it in keys? I don't think it would be quite so bad as long as it is actually benefiting from all of the things that Mortal Strike benefits from. That would include things like improved Mortal Strike. If that increased the damage of Cleave because it was replacing Mortal Strike, then suddenly that's a really good option as well. But yeah. I don't know. Actually, I don't think, like, it would definitely be a single target loss. As for how big it would be, I don't 100% know, but I don't think it would be so bad. Rip Arms? No, I think quite the opposite. I think Arms is looking really good. I think Arms is looking really good. I also don't think Testamite is good for AoE. Good on single target, but not good for AoE. Is my thought right now. I think In for the Kill is so much better. Shit feels broken, doesn't it? It feels really nice. I'm really happy with where Arms is going. I just like the fact that Cleave actually does damage again. That has me so excited. That has me so excited. When I was playing last night, I didn't have my details working, so I was just doing the rotation and just seeing how smooth it felt. Obviously, it still felt incredibly smooth, as did the Fury one, but now I'll actually getting to see the damage from it as well. I'm so excited. Even if the burst is slightly worse, because we're not playing Blade Storm and Hurricane. Which I do think will matter. But the burst should still not be too bad. Between Cleave doing a ton of damage and Storm of Swords Whirlwinds. And having Skull Banner. I'm changing that for In for the Kill. Right, if there's someone here with pets, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. Well, dismount me then to apply the changes. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay. How many procs in a row was that, dude? I cannot describe accurately the joy that I am feeling right now, by the way. Actually having Cleave feel like it's doing something is so good. It's so chill by comparison to Fury. And the damage is so good. Look at the damage it's doing, man. Like, actually look at the damage this is doing. We are sitting pretty around 50k consistently. And then what's that? We need to transition to single target. Don't mind if I do. Let me just get some some Mortal Strikes in here instead. You just give me a hot second there. Yeah, I'll still use a Whirlwind for the damage. Why not? What's that? There's AoE coming. Yeah, don't mind if I do. Let me just get a Rend up there a second, and... Alright, let me start sending some cleaves. Very good. Oh, that's alright. We got Sweep as well. Let's just get that up. I don't know. It's so smooth. I know that there are going to be some people... I saw it just before, that there are some people that are looking at this like, oh my god, 2-button spec, but I'll be honest, the fact that it's cleave doing damage, I actually don't mind it. Man, I just... Oh. 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 Yep. Yep. That's my AoE ability. That is my AoE ability. Oh, good lord. That's all right. Delete the VOD. It's so good, man. It's so good. That is my AoE ability. Let's go. Replace Cleave with Mortal Strike on that breakdown and people wouldn't look twice. Yeah, it's true. It's true. To be fair, it is the only thing... Well, obviously Whirlwind... Okay, so let's think about this objectively now. So, obviously Whirlwind is still doing a really high amount of damage, which does make sense. Cleave is being used at every possible opportunity. There was 63 uses of Cleave, so naturally it's going to be that high. Rend, not doing quite so much by comparison, because now we've lost access to things like Bloodletting. I've opted to not take Bloodborne, which I also think is fine. There's no Bladestorm here to dilute the damage at all, because I don't think Bladestorm is necessary. Look at this. Look at this. Don't think Bladestorm is necessary, if I'm completely honest, but we'll maybe try it in a second. What else? Deep Wounds is doing okay amounts of damage for being what is effectively permanent. Fear of Bastion is a bit weak, but I think it's probably fine. Maybe you could get a... Maybe. Thunderous Roar was nerfed. So perhaps Thunderous Roar isn't quite as necessary, especially if we're not playing Bloodborne or Bloodletting. Thunderous Roar is just not necessary. Quick Thinking, I think you still want to keep for the auto attack speed, so you could open up... You know what? We could open up Tormented Warlord. But you don't need the Rage. We're not spamming Rage. If we were playing Fervor of Battle instead of Storm of Swords, then maybe you would need the Rage, but right now I don't think you do, so even that doesn't make sense. You could have Blade Master, but it would just be... It'd just be the damage of Bladestorm, which is basically nothing. So we can opt for either Piercing Verdict... Yeah, endurance training wouldn't be a bad idea. Again, arms being so squishy, it needs something. I mean, hell, even Pain and Gain. Pain and Gain in Pain and Victory. This honestly might just be better as a defensive talent more than throughput. What about Shockwave with the damage sub-talent? I honestly think it's a bait. And to go that far, we'd have to come out all the way out of Spear. And I still think that Elysium Might is... Is it worth it? In individual instances of burst, I want to believe that Spear is still doing well. It's still double the damage that Thunderous Roar is doing. More so, even. If I know, about double the damage. So removing Thunderous Roar seems fine. You know what, maybe you don't need Bounding Stride. So I'm just thinking about other things now as well. Unless you needed the AoE grip, I don't think you ever need Bounding Stride. There are very few situations you actually need it, and you can hit everything that you need on this row by other talents that are being taken, purely because you're going into Blood and Thunder anyway. So that leaves you with 2 free points to go wherever you want here. Like Crushing Force, for example. How long is the wreck from Warlord? It's only like 3-4 seconds at most, right? Even taking it for the crit, I don't think is super worthwhile. I wanted to see how much damage this Shockwave was doing anyway. We'll have a look and see how much damage Shockwave is doing, but we don't want it to be doing damage, because if it does do damage, then we're going to be in a position where we actively want to use it for damage and not for utility. That is a useless thing right now, so we can just stick it down there. But with this few on-use cooldowns, it feels like having Skull Banner would be pointless. So if we came out of Skull Banner, then where would that go instead? Maybe even improve Mortal Strike for single target, I guess, but... How much damage was Rend doing? Maybe even Massacre to help the single target a little. That will link to working details on beta. The same download still works. There's just a file that I had to change. Bloodletting? We don't have Bloodletting. We have Bloodborne, but we'd only get 1 point in it, and I don't know whether... I mean, it is 7.5% damage for 1 point. That is quite high. What would 7.5% extra damage on Rend be? What? 50... Roughly an extra 56k? More than that even? An extra... sort of around 60 to 65k maybe. It's not that much. And even less for deep wounds. And we're not taking Thunderous Roar anymore to... None of that would be worth dropping Skull Banner for. And Skull Banner's still going to have group value as well. I don't think you can drop Skull Banner. I actually don't think you can drop Skull Banner. Where did I put that point? I remember where I put it. Oh, I did put it in the Massacre, didn't I? Yeah, that's right. I don't think you can drop Skull Banner. If we're talking AoE and M+, I don't think you drop Skull Banner. I think you still have it. I think you still take it, and it becomes more of a group thing than it does for just you, but it'll still have good value for you. Again, it's just the placement in the tree is... The placement in the tree is so weird now, because, like, I don't see how you avoid it. Unless, like I said, if they make taking cleave replace mortal strike and this becomes cleave damage as well, then maybe you can avoid taking skull banner, because you certainly don't need it as far as burst CDs are concerned. Let me try let me try shockwave things. It's only 3 seconds of wreck. I don't know if that's how much did one use of shockwave do? 102k? Nah, it's garbage damage. Good that it's garbage damage, by the way. Actually good. Unironically. You've not... 5 nearby targets. So why are you not spreading properly? Why are you not spreading? Is it because... Is it not just... Okay, is it actually allied players as well? Is it not just pets? It certainly seems that way because of him being here. Yeah, shockwave as damage is bad. don't apologize. I can't stop you from hitting dummies. We all want to test, so that's fine. I'm not getting angry. If you're in stream, I'm not getting angry at you. I'm getting angry at Blizzard for this fucking bug being in the game at all. It's really annoying. Right, okay, no. Shockwave is garbage for damage, so you don't need the extra point when it comes all the way down to Sonic Boom. I don't think you need Tormented Warlords, so you could theoretically play something like this. Right? So now, we've got Shockwave for the utility, we have Spear and Elysian Might for the burst alongside, let's say, Skull Banner. Avatar on its own, because I don't think you need either of these. Piercing Verdict I don't think is all that great anyway. What do we think? But as far as being useful in M+, I think this is kind of it. And if you really needed, let's say, the AoE grip, for example, not that it's all that good, if you really need it, then you take a point out of probably Crushing Force. You take a point out of Crushing Force and put it in here instead. You are missing the extra auto attack speed from here, which I'm not sure is particularly great, because that's going to affect Rage Gen. But at the same time, I don't think you need the Rage Gen that much, because Blood Surge is doing work. I think it would affect single target more than AoE, so I think that's fine. Still think Testamite in AoE is not great. Especially with a cleave build. If we were playing Further a Battle, maybe, rather than Storm of Swords. Yeah, I think this is pretty much how I would play right now. Sharpened Blades and Skullbanner is better than going down Merciless Bone Grinder and Tormented Blade Master. I think so, because it's really hard to get the points to go down here. I don't think that you absolutely need to come down this way. This is just 3 points that I've just thrown in here because I've got very little else. Maybe? Take out Skullbanner, then you have 4. Would you really want to take out Skullbanner and then add Bladestorm as a burst CD without the extra Skullbanner behind it? Because I'm not sure that you would. And we can't go that far. We don't need to come all the way down here. The only reason I came down here is because Sharpened Blades includes cleaved crit strike damage now as well. But you don't 100% need it. Merciless Bone Grinder giving Giga Cleave and SOS damage. It's not even Giga though, it's 50%. I don't know if I'd... Although maybe the value... Maybe because of Cleave being stronger, maybe that is better now. So you're saying do something like that. You probably don't need Fatality either. In which case you could do that. And then Skullbanner is back again. Let's try this now. Oh, it's so much fun. Oh, it's so much fun. Let's try this then. You can come all the way down here. Signet for Bone Grinder? No, don't think it's worth it. Because the thing is, like... So my biggest issue right now with Signet is that the first thing you want to do when you go into a pack is to get your Rend up and spread as soon as possible. And I think for that, you 100% for that, you need to be using Avatar on the charge. If you do that at the very start of a pull, you would be going charge, Avatar, sitting in the Bladestorm. Oh, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Gathering Storm, Hurricane. It's still bugged. If you cancel it immediately, you still get the full stacks, by the way. Charge Avatar, sit the Bladestorm, then Rend Thunderclap. Warbreaker, Spear. It would be the Bladestorm from Tormented Blade Master that would throw me off. Because, like, you need the Avatar on pull, otherwise you're not getting the rage for Rend and Thunderclap. Because it's 60 rage in total that you need for that. Unless first 2 globals are OP. Don't need to get it up that early. Maybe that's just me thinking too hard about it. Also, taking Tormented Blade Master would mean not taking Shockwave, and I think personally I'd rather have the Shockwave for the group. If we're capable of hitting it, I think we want to hit it. And we are definitely capable of hitting it. Like we've without these, we have 2 free points to play around with, and if you put that 1 point there, then you're 1 point short of being able to hit Shockwave, and you're certainly not going to give up EM for it. Let's try it for the sake of argument, at least. Does respectable damage? No, it doesn't. not without Sonic Boom, it doesn't. At least, I don't think so, anyway. Yeah, exactly. Completely fucked that up. I got lost because I didn't have my fucking spear macro on. Let me start that again and actually get my spear macro out. Where the fuck did I put it? How is it not? It's because it's down there. And we got DC'd. If this is reset all my talents, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. I'm going to start queuing for some heroics soon as well, because I really want to play this in some heroics. Ah? Okay, we're fine. Oh, all of my talents reset at least. Did Blizzard just do a rollback to reset all my abilities? Thanks, Blizzard. Wait for all them to come back again. Have a try build without Thunderclap? I don't think you would want to, or? I haven't tried to build without Thunderclap, but I mean, it's 2 points that you take out of here, and where else would you put them, you know? What version of Detail's working on beta? The current one, it's just there's a file that you need to change. But I'm not going to go into that right now, I'm too busy doing other things. There's probably a post somewhere. Have I tried Big Tom yet? Last night I did, an AoE, I still think it's garbage. Like, especially if we're playing Storm of Swords, which I think is the only way to play Arms AoE at the moment. Single target, I love it. Single target, I like it. The highest I've gotten it so far was only 41% outside of Execute. But I still don't think it's that great. If we were playing Further a Battle on AoE, then yeah, I think it would probably be a better option without going into Storm of Swords. That's the one. That's the one. Without Execute and Lust? On single target, yeah. Yeah. That was with Further a Battle as well. We'll wait for Skull Banner as well. A whole minute. "25 seconds. And then I'll actually, hopefully, do this properly as well. I can't express how happy I am that Siegebreaker's actually gone. I love it. Now using sweep as well. And I will point this out. The damage we're seeing right now is with a broken Warbreaker. So we are missing 30% damage on at least 3 targets out of this 5. Which will be very meaningful for those whirlwinds. Also with the Rend bug as well, but yeah, we know about that already. Bleeds. The damage isn't really coming from bleeds, though. Smile. Having this amount of rage makes me think Tester Might would be better. You're not spending that much. You're still, because of the cooldown on cleave, you're still weaving in overpowers in between every cleave, and whirlwinds on a 13 or 8 second cooldown depending on your haste. So yes, you have a lot of rage, but spending it is quite hard. That's why we have a lot of rage, because spending it isn't easy. We're filling so many free globals with overpower. Oh, Glaive Tempest is actually doing something again. Let's go. Whirlwind doing that damage is so satisfying. It is nice. It is nice. Bladestorm again, look at the state of it. Even Rend is not that high, but I guess Rend not being high makes sense, because like I said, we've not... Can't take Bloodletting, because Exploit the Weakness is too good. Probably do have the point economy to hit Bloodborne. Especially if we don't come down here. Like, this would be possible. Doing that would be possible, and then don't need Fatality. You can come out of here for that. And then, I mean, it's 2 points to put wherever we want, I guess. Like there, you could argue for. just for the points. But even that, I don't know. Bloodborne is not as amazing anymore. I actually wonder if they are intending to cap it at 7.5%. Bladestorm seems shitty. Yeah, that was with 2 Bladestorms. I was cancelling them, to be fair. I was cancelling them most of the time. I don't think I ever sit a full Bladestorm, and it certainly wasn't in full CDs. The very first one wasn't. Because I think that you would much rather get... I don't know. It's a weird one. Okay, Armored to the Teeth. It does just say 5%, regardless of how many points you put in it. But again, that might end up just being 2.5 to 5%, which would make sense. I think that's fairly good. Pretty balanced. Let me look at the Rend damage again, actually. Let's look at the Rend damage again, but with Bloodborne instead. Yeah. Look. Where did all my rage go? Please. Why is my rage so much worse this time? It feels like Blood Surge just isn't working. There it is. Yeah, this isn't really helping Rend at all, is it? State of it by comparison. Well, actually, no, it has helped it a bit. It's pulled it clear of deep wounds, at least. That has helped it a little bit. I know there's a big difference in the length of time, but... Actually, no, it really hasn't. Barely even pulled it clear of deep wounds. It's only the smallest amount more. I don't know about this. You look leaner. Thank you, bro. I have been losing the weight. So if we don't do that, then where do you put these 2 points? Possibly even Fatality and Massacre and just help the single target. I still love the idea that Fatality is getting stacks from Cleave. Flat stats is an idea, but that's the reason that these singular points are here between Valor and Victory and Critical Thinking. Because the stats themselves, at least, don't increase with multiple points. So I'm already getting the max number of stats I can get out of these with 1.5% verse and 1.5% crit. But Fatality, honestly, Fatality and Massacre, like, literally just to help the single target with a tiny bit of use on AoE as well. It's not going to have that great use on AoE, but it will be something. Feels kind of dead then if you don't want to go lower. Precisely. But again, the other option is like I did earlier, where you go 1 extra point in critical thinking and then take sharpened blades for the extra cleave crit damage. Not the worst idea, I guess. Not playing Bladestorm. Yeah, I just don't see the value in it. The damage of Bladestorm as an ability itself is atrocious. Bone Grinder is okay. Hurricane is pretty good, but I don't know if I can justify it when Cleave is doing this much damage. Also helps the single target a little. Yeah. Yeah, but does it help the single target as much as going Massacre and Fatality? That's giving it more of a balance between the two, right? Jeez. How do you play 2-target Cleave as arms? No idea. I imagine you might. I mean, if you're in a position where you're still playing Cleave, then it would be Mortal Strike until Sweep was over, and then once Sweep is over, you'll start hitting Cleave instead of Mortal Strike for the most part. But other than that, it would just remain the same. You would start using Slam a lot more as well. There for now, so it's actually on the bar somewhere. I like how this looks. I think this is fine. I think the nerf to Thunderous Roar and both of these I don't think are all that good. Especially don't think you need Thunderous Words if we're not investing that heavily in bleeds, and not being able to hit Bloodletting is pretty bad. The point economy for Bloodborne is not great. Thunderous Roar doesn't do tremendous amounts of damage anymore. But it barely did. Deep Wounds and Rend are a bit meh. But Cleave and Whirlwind. Jeez. Just doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. Oh, there's so many people here now as well. Ree. Go away so my Rend can spread. I hope they're not in my stream. I don't mean it when I say that. Rage Gen looks good with the bleeds. It does, yeah. No, it really does. I just hate this Rend bug at the moment. The Rend bug is really fucking frustrating. But that won't be helping the Rend damage. But even with the extra bleeds and having uptime on all of them, I still don't think it's great. But who cares when the damage is all about Cleave anyway, you know? Now look at this. Jesus Christ. The only way you would take Thunderous Roar is by dropping Spear. Which I guess you could do. But then that would also imply that you want to be taking Bloodborne for the extra bleed damage. Still think Exploit is too powerful compared to Bloodletting in order to take that. And then the final point we could probably put in Critical Thinking just for the extra crit chance. If we were to play something like this, Thunderous Roar in there. We can go down there and we won't forget about it this time. This doesn't have... Doesn't have Skull Banner on it initially, but we'll sit and hit for a moment and see what happens. Oh, of course, there's an Unholy DK here now, too. Ah! I just want to be somewhere with a bunch of AoE dummies that I can just not have this fucking Rend bug. Right. We'll do one more full set of CDs, because I didn't do one with Skull Banner, and then we'll take a look after that. Match. Bleeds are definitely better. Being a log on beta to stand in the dummies to annoy me. I will find somewhere where there's a bunch of AoE dummies that no one has stood around. I will find some. I will find some. Did the Fury Tree get worse or better? Fury Tree seems about the same, if I'm honest with you. The Fury Tree seems relatively similar. The General Tree is a lot better now. For both. Do we like that? Do we prefer Thunderous Roar over Spear of Bastion? These tests were of completely different lengths. There were 2 uses of Thunderous Roar in there, compared to 1 use of Spear of Bastion. One less use and Spear of Bastion was only like, what, 100k away? Granted, you also get the extra bleed damage from Rend, deep wounds. How much extra damage did we get over 30 seconds? How many ticks? 193 hits, 222... 47, 157. Why is that so different? I think I prefer Spear. I don't know, it's a weird one. It's a really weird one. Don't forget the value of spear. Yeah, exactly. It's really hard to quantify. That's something that Sims are going to have to figure out unless I sit here for hours, log it all, and then look through the logs, and I'm not quite prepared to do that, I'll be honest with you. Raw is a lot more convenient to use. That much is certain. And Raw also innately gets you quick thinking for the attack speed as well. Because the crit chance and crit damage on overpower doesn't really matter that much. Can I give you my import string? It's nothing to do with the import string. Details just is broken on this version of beta. It's not properly fixed yet. There's a file you need to change, but if someone has the paste for what to change, the file to change, then I can maybe put it into a command. But I'm not going through it right now. Maybe I have to continue moving for some reason. Raw. That's the one. Appreciate it. Thank you, Marco. I'll make that a command right now. There we go. Good. What was I saying? Do you think it'll be the same for single target? I mean, between spear and DR, or is it worth to take both? On single target, it'd be more worth looking to try and invest in both. Whether you can or not is a different matter. I don't think you could, because endurance training is still strong. I still think for single target, you would definitely want to go Tormented Warlord now, because Wreck on Colossus Smash, it was already good with Wreck on Thunderous Roar, but Wreck on Colossus Smash is so much better. And then it literally just leaves these two branches as an option, similar to Fury. These two branches are just options, and you can choose between them. But in terms of raw power, I still believe that Spear is better than Thunderous Roar. Not even just for damage, but for the effect it gives you as well. And it would kind of make sense, because I think Spear is a higher risk and higher reward, right?